Reading the news. Good luck. Wish us luck, everyone. Good morning, everyone. Welcome. We're just queuing up the studio here. It's been an interesting morning, but it looks like we're ready to go live. Yeah, let's do it. I'm ready if you are. Let's go. I don't know if anyone follows me on Facebook on the page, but yeah. Oh, I got the unstable connection alert. Classic. 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 All right, well, let's do it. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to let's back up. We need to kick it up a little bit. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Ignition News. It is January 31st, the last day of the first of the worst. It has been an incredible start to the year. 2026 has obviously come in with a bang. If you're like me and you started out the year feeling optimistic, but the chaos of the month has caused you to second guess the American resistance, and you see a lack of leadership coming, and it just feels generally hopeless, I want to let you know that you're not alone. We all see what's happening in this country right now, but most importantly, we are waiting for you. We're waiting for you to find us to resist. So welcome. Welcome to the Ignition News. We broadcast the show on your favorite podcast platform. So be sure to find us over on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or even YouTube podcasts. We give you 5 or 6 stories every day that I think you need to know. I used to say 6 or 7 stories a day, but I have, my son is a teenager and I would never hear the end of it if I kept saying that. So 5 to 6 stories a day, sometimes 4 stories a day that I think you need to know. So let's get into it. Today is, in fact, January 31st. Welcome to the Ignition News on our network, Rebel Radio, broadcasting live on WARN, the Weirdos American Resistance Network. It's good to be back. Last night we had we have a live show called Rebel Radio, which is where all the cool kids get together. Last night we had a very late night Rebel Radio, and as I said last night on the show, we would be starting late today because of it. But it was so good to see everyone back there. You know, once we get the studio kicked off, once we get the streaming software updated, and once I don't have to work 12 hours a day, then we will get back to a more regular cadence. But I do see it on the horizon, friends. What we're building is building fast and strong. We're finding new friends and joining new resistance all across the country every single day. It's my great pleasure and honor to be part of this group and to help lead us through this time in American resistance. So welcome. If you're on TikTok, slap that screen so we get people over to join us. Good morning. It's January 31st. Today, we're looking at a series of stories that, when you put them together, paint a deeply disturbing picture of where federal law enforcement is going. We're going to connect a Border Patrol commander mocking a Jewish prosecutor, Elon Musk's lies about the Epstein Island, the arrest of journalists covering protests, and ICE agents handcuffing people to hospital beds. The answer to all of these, the connectivity, the thread, if you will, the lack of accountability. So let's dig in. Good morning, everyone. It is a good morning because you're here. We're here together. Story number 1, Gregory Bovino. Interestingly, Mr. Bovino is in Las Vegas. Maybe he's coming to see me. I don't know. Maybe. Let's go ahead to Minnesota. So there's a pretty breaking story, and this ties into something else that happens that I wanted to let you know. Border Patrol Commander Greg Bovino, now demoted Border Patrol Commander Greg Bovino, who has been leading the federal immigration crackdown in Minneapolis, allegedly made anti-Semitic remarks about Minnesota's U.S. attorney during a phone call with lawyers. This is according to reporting from the New York Times. Bovino apparently made disparaging comments about Daniel Rosen, who is the U.S. attorney from Minnesota and an Orthodox Jew. People with knowledge of the phone call say Bovino's remarks referenced Rosen's Jewish faith in a mocking way. Now, to be clear about this, Rosen was confirmed in October of last year, and his nomination was supported in part because of his leadership in the Jewish community in the area. So apparently, we have Greg Bovino, the face of Trump's Minneapolis crackdown, reportedly mocking his faith while conducting operations in his jurisdiction. And he said something like, because the prosecutor wasn't available because he was attending a religious ceremony or something like that, Bovino apparently made some reference to his quote that he was the chosen people or something like this. And I think why this is important, why this story is very important, is the number one streamer on the left, Hassan Piker, has been 7-day banned from Twitch. He was banned for comments he was literally reading a manifesto. So he's been banned for Twitch. He's been called anti-Semitic, all those kinds of things. But you actually have the government itself, one of the leading officials in the immigration crackdown, actually making truly anti-Semitic remarks and kind of being celebrated in the Republican Party and in the administration, whereas you have someone on the left that is making commentary, protected commentary about what's happening in Minneapolis and is banned from Twitch. It's always been a double standard with these people. They don't want free speech. They want their voices to be heard. We're seeing that now with the TikTok crackdown. We're seeing that now with increasingly the media capitulating. And I think what else I would tell you about this is the most disturbing thing about, I'm going to skip that. I'll get back to that in a second. Welcome everyone to the Ignition News. Today, I just need to take a brief break from the show to see how it's going over on Facebook. We're broadcasting live on Facebook, which is a cesspool. It is going exactly how I thought it would. All right, cool. Back to the stories. It's really good to be here this morning. The other part of the element of that story that I think is really important is the reason that this puts a lot of things in jeopardy is prosecutors are supposed to notify people when law enforcement makes disparaging comments that could jeopardize a case. Something I just found out about Bovino, by the way. Bovino had been relieved of command in California over issues including an online profile picture of him posing with an M4 assault rifle, inappropriate social media posts, and problematic sworn congressional testimony. So the dude was literally demoted previously in the Biden administration for this kind of conduct. He was caught lying in federal court, and his previous superiors deemed his conduct inappropriate enough to remove him from command. So now we obviously know he's been moved out of Minnesota. He's actually in Las Vegas right now, apparently. But the pattern here is quite clear for Mr. Bovino, little Mr. Bovino. Lie under oath, no consequences. Mock a U.S. attorney's Jewish faith, no consequences. Oversee operation that results in the death of 2 American citizens, no consequences. All I have to say to Greg Bovino is as follows. Greg, cut it out. Quit your job. That's a joke you can only that's only a good joke if you can see it on the live. I don't know, just me, I guess. Good morning, everyone. Let's get on to the next story. This is about the Epstein files. There was a massive release of Epstein files yesterday. And honestly, some just very disturbing things. But I do want to talk about Elon Musk because Elon Musk is in this latest dispatch. The overall story about Elon Musk in this dispatch is it's sort of like the overwhelming dispatch about Elon Musk is like Elon Musk is so deeply uncool that like the other billionaires did not want to invite him to their weird island. And so he had to like beg to go to the island. And they were all like, what island? What are you talking about? We don't know what you're talking about. Musk, by the way, for years has publicly claimed that Jeffrey Epstein tried to repeatedly get him to visit that island, but that he refused. As recently as September 2025, by the way, he posted on his Nazi website, Epstein tried to get me to go to his island and I refused. That's what he said. Well, the Department of Justice released 3 million pages of Epstein files and they tell a different story. There's at least 16 emails between Musk and Epstein. In these emails, Musk repeatedly expressed interest in visiting the island. And in 2012, Epstein asked Musk how many people he wanted to bring for the helicopter to the island. Let's see. And yeah, so Musk says, oh, I never went to the island. I never wanted to go. He asked me to go. But then he's literally emailing Epstein, oh, here's my list of people for the helicopter. And this latest dispatch of files, by the way, is absolutely disgusting. There are allegations in this latest dispatch in a link that was then later taken down by the DOJ. There are allegations from a 13-year-old about the president of the United States in absolutely disgusting conduct. It's disgusting. There's no way I would read I can't bring myself to read it because I think it's so abhorrent. But it's very clear. You know, they are arresting journalists. They're arresting journalists right now. But you have all of these powerful men in this list doing absolutely, and I have to say, alleged, of course, as we know, alleged to have done all of these terrible, terrible things, and they're seeing no justice. But meanwhile, a gay black journalist who's been a journalist for 30 years is getting arrested. It's disgusting. It's an illusion of transparency. So we know that Transparency Act, by the way, passed Congress in November. That it passed by 427-1. The deadline for that was December 19th. The DOJ missed the initial deadline by more than a month. and it just keeps coming out and keeps coming out and keeps coming out. And I think the thing I would pause to say a little bit of commentary here, people watch our show, they listen to the show, they think I'm some wild, wacky liberal leftist. To be clear, I'm a liberationist. But I'm extremely disappointed in Merrick Garland and in the Biden administration. I am I am actually mortified. I find it sickening to know that they had all of this information, literally millions and millions of pages of information. And so if you come on the show, it's your first time watching the show today, and you think, "Oh, he's some crazy leftist communist." Okay, that's probably the leftist communist part. I'm not gonna, you know, but I'm mortified. I find it sickening and disgusting. I think the fact that the Biden administration, I mean, obviously the first Trump administration was sitting on this information. That's obviously disgusting and horrifying. But to now learn that the Biden administration was sitting on all of this information that really voters should have had before the election, what was the purpose of this? It's disgusting. It's a complete tarnishment to the legacy of Joe Biden. By the way, Joe Biden's entire legacy has been destroyed this first year. He made this promise that he was going to come to office and he was going to make sure we would never have to worry about Donald Trump again. He failed in that. He failed in launching significant policy. Every policy that he launched, whether by law or executive action, has been destroyed with a pen by the 47th president of the United States of America. Joe Biden's only legacy, his only legacy, will be as a dash between the 45th and 47th president and the advance of authoritarianism in the United States. That is his only legacy. And it was shameful that he was so selfish, that he was obviously cognitively not there to have seen what was advancing in this country, to have violated his core promise to us, and to have appointed Merrick Garland as Attorney General. Merrick Garland, who failed to hold anyone accountable for what happened on January 6th. Merrick Garland, who sat on millions and millions and millions of pages of documents. Merrick Garland is a traitor to the United States of America. He betrayed you, your family. He put all of these people in danger. Alex Preddy, what happened to him? What happened to Renee Good? What happened to Keith? None of that would have happened. Not to mention the thousands of people who've been torn from their family. Liam, the 5-year-old that's being separated from his mother right now. None of this would have happened. So if you come on my show and you think, "Oh, he's some, Democrat shill," well, you have not been watching my show long enough, first of all. And second of all, I think it is mortifying. I think it is disgusting, and it's an abject failure of leadership to now see everything that we're seeing. These files are disgusting. I know I'm on a tangent here, but this is disgusting information. Who are they protecting, and for what purpose are we protecting these people? And I've said this before, and I'm going to close this out with one last thing. More of this information is going to come out. More of it's going to come out. And as the American people begin to see what is happening and what has happened, they're going to be disgusted. And when they see how the other half lives, not even the other half, excuse me, when they see how the wealthiest among us live, the wealthy 1%, and they see what's happening, they're going to be mortified. Oh, sorry, I got a little bit of a kickback on my feed there. The digital echo of this is yeah. Anyways, welcome to the Ignition News. I got a bit distracted there. Let's continue on to the rest of the stories for the day. It's sad to think. It's sad to think how we've been left to ourselves. It's sad to think that. I'll bring it home. Don't worry. I'm so glad that you're joining us, by the way. I just want to take a brief moment where we've got quite a few people now over on Substack. We've got a nice crowd over on TikTok. It's good to see you there. Last night, we got a TikTok violation. That was nice. So it's good to see that we're back up and running on TikTok this morning. And before I get into the next story, I want to let's sit in mourning for what we've lost and how we've been left alone for a little bit. But let us remind ourselves, this is how everyone has felt throughout history in key moments of liberation. Throughout history, not just the last 250 years of America, but every time people have chosen to resist oppression and tyranny, this is how it feels in the darker times. When you see the vast disproportionate abuse of power, how money destroys people, how money destroys society. how people with excessive wealth use that wealth to crush those who work for them, who protect them, who make their food, who cook for them, who clean for them, who educate their children. People have come together and have pushed back. And the long arch of history has been very clear. If these wealthy people, if the powerful would have had their way, we would all be crushed, working for nothing, working in dungeons. But throughout history, we have pushed back. And this moment of darkness we find ourselves in is a moment when we must push back, a moment when we must not be silent. But I'll get into that a little bit more on the next story. I do want to quickly say thank you for following the show. We do need to upgrade a few things for the show. We need to upgrade our streaming platform. So I'm going to do a little bit of a plug here. Please follow the show on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, what's the other one? YouTube Podcasts or Substack. And if you do want to support the show, I'm just going to throw this plug out there. buymeacoffee.com/Rebel Radio. I want to say thanks to Potato for sending a sponsor or sponsoring the show. Big thanks to Carmen as well for recently pitching in to sponsor the show. We're looking to do some upgrades on the streaming software, and I promise you, we are still building the studio. It's just taking a long time. Okay. So let's go on to what happened, obviously, yesterday. Let's talk about what happened Friday morning. And this happened just hours before the Epstein files were released. Pam Bondi went on Twitter and she announced that she had personally ordered the arrest of Don Lemon and 2 other journalists, Georgia Fort and Traherne Cruz. Oh, I guess there's another one as well, Jamil Lundy. They arrested them for their participation in filming a church protest in Minnesota. So here's what happened. On January 18th, protesters entered City's church because one of the pastors is the acting field director of the St. Paul ICE field office. The protesters were demonstrating against ICE's enforcement surge in Minnesota, chanting ICE out and justice for Renee Good, obviously referring to the 37-year-old who was killed on January 7th. Don Lemon was there as a journalist. He live streamed the protest on his Instagram show, and he had people, he was interviewing people in place. Georgia Fort is a Minneapolis-based journalist who is also covering the protest. When federal agents came to arrest her Friday morning, she went live on Facebook, showing them at her door. She said, "I don't feel like I have a First Amendment right as a member of the press now because federal agents are at my door arresting me for filming the church protest a week ago." Now, here's what makes this very egregious, everyone. Last week, a federal magistrate judge reviewed the evidence against them and against Lemon, and he determined that there was insufficient evidence to charge them. I'm kind of on a roll right now, so I'm going to stop on the roll that I am. And I really need to articulate what happened yesterday is a flashpoint in the country. What happened yesterday is a major, major moment, and we cannot allow this to happen. History is very clear about what happens when countries start arresting journalists. I was going to cover the rest of the story, but I want to be very clear. History is very clear about what happens when countries start arresting journalists. The first thing that happens is people like you and I start to self-censor. We start to be careful about what we say. We start to be afraid. I actually saw that yesterday happening I was watching the feed of The Bulwark, and The Bulwark was sitting on their live feed, and they're just like, "Oh, well, I wouldn't have done what Don Lemon did. I wouldn't have gone into a church." Journalists throughout history have done some of the most dangerous things. Journalists in Gaza filming as literal bombs drop, as bullets whiz past their head. In Vietnam, in Iraq, Afghanistan, World War I, World War II. We would never have known about these things if it were not for journalists being somewhere where someone like that fucking coward says, "Oh, I wouldn't have done that. I wouldn't have gone to the battlefield to film the atrocities of what's happening in Palestine. I wouldn't have gone to the battlefield to film what happened in Afghanistan and Iraq. The horrible misconduct by troops." Do you see what's happening already? These people are self-censoring because they don't want federal agents showing up at their door, knocking at their door on a Friday morning because they're covering somewhere where the administration says they can't cover. Go watch the video. It's still there. Don Lemon just went in the church and filmed. He didn't obstruct anyone. He didn't stand in anyone's way. He didn't stand at the doorway with the camera saying, "You can't get past me." These are what the law was intended to do. This is what that was for. The moment you start telling journalists they can't be places, especially because of things like free speech and religion, then what happens is people stop talking. Your boss starts firing you. Do you understand this? You start arresting journalists. These are the things that start happening. Your friends and neighbors stop telling you that they support you. They stop going to protests. They stopped covering protests. There were millions of people in the street yesterday. It's nowhere on the national news. There were literally millions of people in the street in almost every in every major city. There were massive protests around the entire country. People are taking to the street right now, but journalists are afraid of covering that. This is a direct result of what happened in Minneapolis. This is a direct result of that. And the billionaires are censoring, filtering, suppressing that information because they don't want you to go to the street as well. Because you will be more likely to go to the street if you know your friend is there, your neighbor is there, and thousands of people in your community are there. Why? Because you're going to feel safer, first of all, but because you're not going to be alone and you're not going to feel alone. But the next thing that happens is they start arresting journalists. Then your boss at your company, you work as an administrator. Oh, hey, you've made some really controversial posts on Facebook, and our company has some connections with the government. We've got a really important contract coming up. This is nothing personal, but we're going to part ways with you. That is happening now. It will happen more. There's a vast economy happening of people doing what I do, creating news, creating information, creating content. They start to self-censor. The economy struggles. It shrinks. They start arresting more and more and more people. They start with people that they say are breaking the law. And by the way, they lie. Don Lemon was not breaking the law. And by the way, let me just say this very clearly. It is not constitutionally settled at all that what they were doing by going into that church was any way illegal or a violation of the First Amendment. Because yes, of course, you have the right to freely exercise your religion, but you also have the right of free speech. And sometimes those two things come together in the same room. And I will tell you, AI now is also self-censoring. Last night, I was running through some scenarios, and I just I wonder what AI would say about this right now. So I put it into Gemini, Google's Gemini. And the results I got were basically Gemini quite literally said to me, yeah, that might be a use of your free speech, but also you live in this country where they're cracking down on free speech. And I'm sitting there thinking to myself, not only is AI a terrible environment killing solution, it's also now basically telling me not to speak out against the government. That's fucking terrifying. So then your boss fires you because they've got a contract with the government. And no, they don't want to have some lefty radical on their payroll if they're trying to get a contract for the government. This is happening now. It will continue to happen. So let me just be very clear. You have to take moments like this. And instead of self-censoring, instead of being quiet, you need to be loud. You need to use your voice. You need to be an agitator. How do I sign up to be a paid agitator? Where do I sign up for this? We have to make our voices be heard. When our voices are silenced, that allows people to be comfortable with the tyranny that is happening in this country right now, and we can't allow that. Be proud of your voice. Use your voice. And then the last thing I will say on this topic before I close it down. I watched this pastor in this church. And as I'm going to just say this right now, as an autist, I have a absolute refined, perfected bullshit detector. It's perfect. I can sense bullshit from someone from a million miles away. I can read you up and down in 5 seconds. My fellow neurodivergents, you know exactly what I'm talking about. I can read you up and down before you even say a word. I can tell if you're full of shit 2 sentences in. I've studied human behavior my entire life to try to figure out how to just survive. And I watched that pastor and I watched these purported Christians. The only Christians in that church were the Christians who showed up to raise their voices about what is happening in Minnesota. Before those ICE protesters showed up, there were no Christians in that church. Do you know why? Because Jesus Christ himself was an immigrant. He was an anchor baby. His parents fled a country because of religious persecution. No one would house them. You know why? Because of self-silencing. Oh, there's some immigrants in our community. Oh, sorry, the inn is full. No room for you. Finally, someone says, okay, you can sleep in the barn. And then their savior, Jesus Christ, was born. And the audacity of these people to somehow think that they can claim to be religious while this terror is being inflicted on our streets. Do you not remember thou shalt not kill? Alex Preddy, Renee Good. It is a hypocrisy. These people are deep hypocrites. It's a grift. It is a grift in the name of God. God, Jesus, whoever you want to say. Any moral force can see what is happening in Minnesota and say it is wrong. If Jesus were here, he would be on the streets protesting with those protesters. There's no question about it. He would be flipping tables. And he certainly wouldn't be asking the government to arrest people, filming atrocities. How the administration is acting, how Pam Bondi is acting, they are behaving more like the Taliban. The right went for years screeching about Sharia law. Oh, Sharia law, Sharia law, Sharia law. Now we've got dangerous, weaponized government agencies acting in the name of religion, arresting people in the name of religion. Are you kidding me? It's a farce. Thank you. So don't self-censor. And the last story I want to tell you about, you may not have heard about this story. I just want to let you know. And I'm sorry I haven't been able to keep up with the comments on the page. I hope everybody's being civil. I want to say thank you to the moderators on the show. I do need to make a quick plug. I have a very specific goal on Spotify. And I know some of you don't do Spotify. That's fine. I broadcast on 17 platforms for people who don't want to do Spotify. If you listen to the Ignition News, I really do need you to go find it on Spotify and click follow. I am very close to an important goal with Spotify. So click follow, please. I need a certain number of followers to kick it into the next level. So go follow us on the Ignition News. If you don't know how to find us, go to theignition.news. Follow me on Spotify because it's going to allow me to monetize the platform to continue to do what I'm doing. It's expensive. It takes time. I'm supposed to be at work right now. I'm just throwing that out there. But I'm here with you. So let's go into the last story. The final puzzle today. We have a situation where ICE agents entered a Hennepin County Medical Center without a warrant on December 31st and waited at the bedside of a patient for more than 24 hours. The patient was shackled to their hospital bed, and they were denied family visits while ICE kept watch. When county commissioners and state legislators showed up at the hospital and confronted the ICE agents, they finally left. Healthcare workers held a press conference outside HCMC calling for the hospital to enforce and update its policies on how it responds to ICE officers. More than 300 healthcare workers have participated in training to prepare them to protect patients during encounters with immigration authorities. One healthcare worker at a press conference said, "Healers will keep showing up to make sure hospitals remain places of healing and not fear." This was actually before what happened with Alex Preddy. But we're also learning about a situation where ICE officers, there was a clash with ICE officers alleging that someone had smashed their head into a wall. And the healthcare workers were basically saying, you know, this is not what's happening. And this tracks with the previous story that we had yesterday. We talked about where ICE officers are stealing from people. There's a photograph of a man with a gold bracelet that he allegedly stole. An ICE officer allegedly stole something. Let me pull this up because I want to make sure I get this story right. Intensive care nurses immediately doubted the word of federal immigration officers when they arrived at a Minneapolis hospital with a Mexican immigrant who had broken bones in his face and skull. Immigrations and Customs Enforcement agents initially claimed Alberto Mondragon had tried to flee while handcuffed and purposely ran headfirst into a brick wall. But staff members at HCMC determined that could not possibly account for the fractures and bleeding throughout the 31-year-old's brain. It was laughable if there was something to laugh about, said one of the nurses. There is no way this person ran headfirst into a wall. So now you have ICE agents stealing from people, killing people, and smashing their face in, and then trying to have the audacity to tell healthcare workers that, oh, they ran into a wall. If this was a movie, if you were watching this movie, you would say, I want my money back. It's absurd. And it's a crime against humanity. It's probably a story you haven't heard much about, so that's why I wanted to cover that. And I wanted to remind you That is exactly the kind of information that this government is trying to make sure that you don't hear about. That is exactly the kind of information that reporters are afraid to talk about because someone might show up at their door. And I say this all the time. This has already happened to me. In April, 2 armed men showed up to my door. 2 armed men on behalf of Nevada's Governor Joe Lombardo. Why? Because I made 3 videos critical of him. And so they came to investigate me if I was a safety risk. They came to my house. They scared my wife. Armed men. They parked around the corner because they didn't want us to see them. They came wearing body armor and their little douchey sunglasses because I made 3 videos. So if you don't think it's going to happen to you, I can tell you from firsthand account, it will happen to you. The only thing I can tell you is you have to be prepared for that moment. So how does this all tie together? Well, you have the Epstein files, a lack of accountability. You have atrocities being committed by ICE. You have the rank hypocrisy of Bovino saying anti-Semitic things and then Hassan Piker being banned. You have Don Lemon being arrested. And then you have ICE agents with the audacity to assault a man and then claim that he ran headfirst into a wall. It's all happening in real time right in front of us. And the question I have is not what do we do about it? The question I have is what kind of future do you want? It's my final closing question for you on this month, because we can't possibly take the next and necessary steps into advancing liberation, to freeing those people, and to freeing ourselves if we don't even know what we want. I shared this last night on Rebel Radio. I'm going to share this story again. I got home very late last night. My wife asked me to carry up some propane to the roof last night. We have a rooftop deck. And I carried the propane up because I'm a big, strong man. And when I got to the roof, I looked around and I could feel this blue light. I could just feel it. It was so bright. It was cascading down on me. And what I realized was that there was a beautiful full moon. And I realized all night I had not seen that moon because I was so busy working, worrying about what is happening in this country. And as I stood underneath that moon, I just took a minute to reflect and to let that light cascade down on me, because the moon, after all, is just reflecting beautiful sunlight, cascading the sunlight into the darkness, reflecting it. And this is what you must do. You must be that. You have to cascade and reflect the light into this very dark time. But you also cannot allow them to take away the moon. You cannot allow them to take away those small moments of enjoying the beauty, the prosperity, and the joy and delight of life. This is their mission. And every small moment, when you find beauty in this moment of hate, hatred, smallness, you are securing a victory for yourself, for your mental health, for your friends, and for your family. Every small act of liberation and joy you find is a powerful, combustive act of liberation and resistance. So don't let them take the moon. Don't let them take the light. And remind yourself not just to think of how we get out of this, because we will. We will get out of this. I will do everything in my power, and you will do everything in your power to ensure that. But if you can't imagine what it is you want at the other end of it, well, then they've already won. So don't give them that victory. In addition to securing the fight every single day, you have to think of what it is we're fighting for when one day we win this battle, and we will. That's it for us, everybody. That's the Ignition News Today Live, January 31st. Go follow the show on your favorite podcast platform, and we'll be back tomorrow with live news.